Have you ever given some thought on what it means to living a really happy life? Free from the problems and anxieties that so many of us carry, to rise daily with a sense of direction? In such case, you are not isolated. Actually, hundreds of years have passed while wondering this. One group of intellectuals also felt they had the answer. Those were the Stoic folks. Exactly is Stoicism, though? Is it really about accepting suffering and adversity without protest? Or is there something more basic at its foundation? Under Massimo Pigliucci's guidance, one of the contemporary Stoic advocates, we are exploring thoroughly the concepts of this ancient discipline nowadays. We will teach the abilities that will help you to negotiate life with knowledge, mental clarity, and resilience. Visualize this: our country is ancient Greece. On Athens' crowded streets abound merchants, academics, and common people living their lives. Zeno of Citium looks among the chaos silently. Not any man Zeno developed Stoicism, a philosophy born from his own tragedy. He did not shatter following a shipwreck loss of everything. Instead, he began to see the core of existence, and from these meditations, Stoicism arose. Fast ahead now to now, our challenges, loss, uncertainty, and the search for meaning remain the same, even if the world has changed drastically. Massimo Pigliucci enters this scene. Modern philosopher Pigliucci has lived his life, bringing Stoicism into the 21st century. But how relevant old knowledge could be right now? Let us investigate the concepts that will enable us to live differently. Principle 1. The Dichotomy of Control. Imagine yourself half through a busy day. Perhaps you are delayed in traffic and run late for a vital meeting. As the annoyance builds, you feel completely powerless. The trouble is, Stoicism argues that you shouldn't let that irritation rule you. Why? Because Stoicism teaches one about the paradox of control. Though simple, this concept is really vital. Some things in life we cannot control. Others we can? Massimo Pigliucci often emphasizes this idea and advises us to focus simply on what is under our control. While you have no say over the traffic, your response to it does. You can choose to keep calm or use the time to meditate or perhaps listen to something motivating. This shift of perspective opens opportunities for improvement even in the most unpleasant situations. Principle 2, living according to nature. Let us now turn to the Stoic idea of living in line with nature. These days, this does not mean either giving up modern life or living in the forest. Instead, it's about matching your behavior with reason. Therefore, using your own nature as a logical human. Imagine it this way. Say you are river paddling upstream. It's taxing, frustrating, and you seem to be nowhere. Though living in sync with nature is all about just that. If you stopped fighting the river and started working with it instead, it's about understanding how naturally life unfolds and learning to work with rather than against it. Massimo Pigliucci tells us that knowing and enjoying the way things are helps us to achieve peace. Trying to make life exactly as it should not help us to relax. This means comprehending what is under your control, seeking your goals with sensibility, and letting go of the rest, not of giving up on them. Principle 3, virtue as the only good. Now let us investigate one of the main Stoic ideas, the conviction that virtue is the only real good. In a society when wealth, power, or status determines success most often, this can seem extreme. Still, the Stoics maintain that living a moral life results in real pleasure rather than from outside circumstances. Imagine you are promoted at work, but it requires compromising your moral standards. You then go? The Stoic answer is quite clear: choose virtue. Massimo Pigliucci argues that this concept is more relevant than it has ever been. Retaining your values is the key to long-term pleasure in a culture full of temptations and distractions. Giving virtue wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation first priority, you build a life immune to change from without. Let us pause to reflect on Marcus Aurelius. Among the greatest Stoic intellectuals ever produced, Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius had unimaginable challenges, including a terrible plague. Still, he remained staunch in his values all through it. Later printed in Meditations, his notebook contained thoughts on the need of morality, self-control, and knowledge of the meaning of life. Imagine yourself in his shoes, juggling cancer and personal tragedy while also deciding the fate of a whole kingdom. Marcus Aurelius did not, however, break under strain. Turning inside, he guided himself with Stoicism. His story tells us powerfully that not only intellectual but also practical tools for confronting the most challenging circumstances of life are Stoic ideas. Principle 4, negative visualization. Let us now come to a Stoic approach, whose initial apparent conflicting character is negative imagery. This means imagining worst-case scenarios, not to dwell on them, but rather to prepare psychologically and emotionally. Massimo Pigliucci argues rather strongly for the benefits of this approach. Considering loss or difficulties helps us not just get better, but also more appreciative of what we already have. Imagine if you could picture life without something you love. Would you value it even more? Not about pessimism. This activity is about cultivating thankfulness and strengthening your inner determination. Principle 5. The impermanence of life. Another basic Stoic principle is knowledge of impermanence. All that exists in life, our possessions, our relationships, even our own existence, is ephemeral. Though at first negative, this is actually freeing. Accepting the impermanence of life encourages you to value every moment more totally. Massimo Pigliucci stresses the need of memento mori, that is, of realizing we will pass death. Far from being morbid, this discipline enables us to live deliberately, focus on what truly important. Imagine waking every day aware it might be your last. How would you live differently? This way of view could enable you to let go of what is not important and concentrate on what really counts in your life. Let us now stop to explore still another remarkable Stoic philosopher, Epictetus. Born into slavery, Epictetus might have given in easily to bitterness and pessimism. Rather, though, he found mental emancipation. He said somewhat famously, "We are disturbed not by events, but by the views we take of them." Imagine yourself in his circumstances, stripped of all outer freedom, yet understanding that true freedom comes from inside. Epictetus tells us that, independent of our circumstances, we always have control over our own ideas, and that Massimo Pigliucci and Epictetus both agree is where our genuine power exists. Principle 6, Amor Fati. At last, let's look at the concept of amor fati, loving one's fate. This concept encourages us to welcome, as unavoidable features of our journey, both positive and negative ones in our lives. Massimo Pigliucci stresses this idea a lot as a source of comfort from adversity. Rather of battling or resenting the responsibilities of life, we could choose to see them as opportunities for personal growth. Imagine staring at every setback, every disappointment, and proclaiming, "This is exactly what I need to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient." This kind of thinking can be transformational. It's about aggressively embracing your life with all its turns, and finding meaning in every experience, not about acquiescing whatever happens. Principle 7. The discipline of assent. Have you ever allowed concepts grow into concern or anxiousness and discovered you are overwhelmed? The Stoics believe that we may control our ideas by methods of disciplined concision. This concept helps us to go over our impressions and decide whether or not to accept them as true. Suppose a situation whereby someone at work criticizes you. Your immediate reflex can be one of hurt or rage. Stoicism, though, gives you options. You can pause to assess whether that criticism is accurate and decide on your line of action. Massimo Pigliucci emphasizes that practicing this technique enables us to maintain mental clarity and avoid unnecessary suffering. It's about learning to control your mind instead, then let outside events define your emotions. Principle 8, Premeditatio Malorum. Another strong Stoic practice is premeditatio malorum, frequently referred to as the premeditation of tragedies. This is mentally simulating prospective obstacles or challenges before they become real. This will enable you to be better ready to control them with cool and reason. Think of it as almost like getting ready for a difficult run. You start getting ready not waiting till the day of the event. You practice, you expect problems, and you grow in endurance. This concept guides you in developing resilience in life. Massimo Pigliucci usually advises using this strategy to become psychologically stronger against negative results instead of emphasizing them. It loses control over you once you have seen the worst. Principle 9, the unity of humankind. Moreover, Stoicism encourages us to see people's oneness. Part of a larger whole, each of us is related and dependent on the others. This concept inspires us to treat people sympathetically and with knowledge. Imagine walking about a crowded metropolis, surrounded by people from several walks of life. According to Stoicism, every one of those persons is a part of the same human family. Your contact with the surroundings can be totally changed by this point of view. Massimo Pigliucci stresses the need of this concept in advancing a feeling of shared objective and community. Seeing others as fellow persons on the same road allows us to approach life with more compassion and understanding. Let us stop to examine still another well-known Stoic, Seneca. Acclaimed for his wealth and authority, Seneca also prized compassion. Real riches, he realized, came from your giving, not from your own belongings. Imagine a day when, rich as Seneca was, choosing to help others without expecting anything in return. His actions remind us that living in line with Stoic principles is about both personal development and aiding the well-being of others. Principle 10, the power of volition. Another basic Stoic concept is the power of volition, that which helps us to decide how we respond to the conditions of life. This concept reminds us that we can always manage our response to the paradox of control, even if we cannot always control what happens to us. Consider yourself in a trying situation, perhaps a health crisis or an unplanned job loss. You had choices right there. You can choose to react with dread and suffering or with confidence and resolve. Massimo Pigliucci underlines, often as essential component of Stoic practice, this concept. Knowing the power of will helps you to regain control of your life, independent of the circumstances. Principle 11, the Stoic Reserve Clause. The Stoic Reserve Clause is the tendency of pledging oneself to reach your goals, knowing that success is not fully under your control. Although you do your best, you also know that the outcome could not always satisfy your needs. Think about aiming for something, like starting a company or pursuing another line of work. Though the outcome is not obvious, you commit your heart to it. The Stoic Reserve Clause helps you to be ready to welcome whatever happens, of course, and to achieve all within your ability. This approach will help you to keep motivated and focused, free from connection to the results. Massimo Pigliucci stresses this concept a lot as a way to allow us to mix aspirations with reality and keep us grounded and powerful. Principle 12, the art of letting go. At last, Stoicism gives the ability of letting go. This principle is about releasing our attachment to objects, including our own egos, relationships, and even worldly goods that are beyond our control. Imagine tightly gripping a rope till it starts to hurt. Your suffering increases with clinging. Still, let go and you get relief. In life, letting go may be rather freeing. Massimo Pigliucci emphasizes this behavior as essential for reaching peace rather quite a bit. When we let go of things we cannot change, we let ourselves be more really free and happy. Conclusion. Stuckness is clearly a treasure of wisdom, for guiding a strong and happy life as we near to an end. From the discipline of consent to the skill of letting go, every principle is a tool that may let you handle the complexities of the modern world with clarity and intent. Massimo Pigliucci reminds us through his teachings that Stoicism is a way of life that could profoundly change our thinking, feeling, and behavior, not merely an old philosophy. Whether your daily challenges or the worst ones you encounter call for them, these ideals can lead you toward a life of morality, wisdom, and inner serenity. So, stop to give some thought on what we looked at today. Among the ideas which most relate to you in your own life right now, how could you start employing them? Remember, Stoicism is about progress rather than perfection. It's about progressively, regularly heading toward the ideal form of oneself. Having said that, kindly watched. Until next time.